What if we had a system or a guideline that would help make the maintenance a lot easier, a lot smoother, a little less frustrating, and a heck of a whole lot less overwhelming? Parenthood is challenging enough as it is, and getting organized sounds easier said than done. Now, combine these two together, and it's truly a balancing act that many of us struggle with day in, day out. If you're here, it's because you want to know how to get your life and home more organized and structured where the kids are involved too, so that parent life is a little easier and you can focus on what truly matters. Hey there, I'm Dianne 𝘠𝘠𝘮𝘯, owner and founder of One Tidy Place. I created this podcast because I know parents have their hands full. I know this because I have 3 kids of my own. Each week, we'll talk about all things organizing, teaching kids life skills, and contributing to the home, being on the same page with your partner, and raising your kids together while you tidy up, go out for a walk, or just need some real talk. I'm here for you. Thank you for tuning in. Are you ready? Let's do this. Hey, welcome back, and thank you so much for listening to another episode of Parenting Guide Organizing Habits Made Easy podcast. And you're listening to episode number 38. And today we'll be talking about reducing the frustrations and overwhelm from the never-ending tasks of maintaining your home, where I'll be taking you through a step-by-step process so that you can get control back and feel like you're on top of everything. So where did all of this come from? Well, one day I had this thought of how can I help you more? You, my audience member, because we all know that from the moment you wake up until you close your eyes at night, the house needs to be maintained. Otherwise, it's going to be a disaster. And every single day, it's just all going to accumulate, the clutter, the mess, the dirty dishes, the loads of laundry that are lining up the hallway, the shoes that are all over the place, and the bags in the middle of the kitchen floor. Am I making you feel a little tense all of a sudden? I know. So naturally, all of these things will accumulate if they're not taken care of, right? So what if we had a system or a guideline that would help make the maintenance a lot easier, a lot smoother, a little less frustrating, and a heck of a whole lot less overwhelming? Don't worry, this episode will help you out. So a few months ago, I sent out this survey to a group of friends, some contacts, and my email list. And the gist of the survey was to find out what the situation was in their household about all the chores that needed to get done. Like, who was doing it? Where does the bulk of it all land? Which ones were annoying them the most, or the ones that were most frustrating? And which of their top 3 that, if they had a magic wand, it could all disappear? And a few ladies, because most of them were ladies, had responded that they only had 3 that were annoying them. Yeah, only 3. So from what I gathered, the main 2 that kept coming up over and over again were laundry and doing the dishes. The rest was a mixture of different types of chores. Some people were more specific, like cleaning and mopping and even meal prep, but laundry and dishes were the ones that were a big frustration for most. So, like I said, I was sitting there wondering, how can I make your life easier at home? How can I make it less frustrating and reduce that stress? Because our house isn't maintained consistently, and we all know when there's clutter everywhere, that just adds to the stress because we see it. We have to process it all. We can't find our things. It's taking us longer to get ready or to leave sometimes. And we're constantly feeling scattered. And we're rushing out the door to get to work or to get the kids to school. And then when we come home, it's not as peaceful looking and serene as we'd like it to be, right? And I'm not talking about having soft music as you walk in or having candlelights and white linens and all these things, where it looks so minimalistic and everything's put in place and there's no dust. Like, let's be real. Although that would be really nice, it's a whole different story when you have kids around, along with so many obligations, and life is so busy. But it doesn't have to be and feel so cluttered and scattered all the time. So all this to say is not having our home maintained consistently or as consistent as we'd like, I think that's what's the most frustrating. And we often hear when it comes to our housework and home maintenance that we just can't keep up. So this whole conversation going on in my head, I know I'm not the only one who does this, but it got me thinking about you. So then the next thought in my head was about emails. I know, stay with me. I don't know why, but I had to think of a parallel of something that's so relatable with many people that's outside of our home. For instance, when we receive emails at work all day, every day, and just responding to them as they come in, by the end of the day, you feel like you haven't done much at all, or any work for that matter, because you've been busy responding to every single email and everyone else's demands except doing what you needed to do for that day. And then you come home frustrated, or you end the day frustrated and stressed the next day, especially because you have all this work to do and to go through from the day before. So on top of all of that, there are more emails coming in and more people asking you questions and interrupting your train of thought. Can you feel the frustration, or are you tensing up right now? Because I know I am, and it's tough. It really is. Now, I know this isn't a typical situation for everyone at work. That wouldn't make sense, but it does happen from time to time. Sometimes you have days on end that are like that, or even just a glimpse of that in your week. But regardless of the frequency, or if what I just described happens every single day, you can imagine the amount of stress and frustration you'll have when you try to get the things that you want done and you can't, or you can't yet, because everybody else's needs have to be met first. Does this sound at all familiar to you? I read somewhere that in order to work better or work smarter, not harder, they say that the best thing to do when it comes to tackling emails, and I know this isn't for everyone, and it depends about your situation at work, but they say to be more productive, or to be the most productive and to feel more efficient at work, is to block time to check your email during the day. So whether that's the first thing in the morning that you do for maybe an hour, or the last thing you do before the end of the day. But whatever you do, be specific about the amount of time you're spending doing that specific thing, which in this case is checking your emails and responding to them, if you can help it, of course. So how do we bring this all back to the home front? Well, I'll take you step by step on how to schedule your tasks and chores so that it becomes less frustrating and overwhelming. So the first thing you want to do is to set your timer for 10 minutes max, and grab a pen and a paper and brain dump all the things that need to get done to maintain the house. And just to be clear, these are things that you normally do. Otherwise, it'll all pile up. It's going to be a big mess. It's going to be cluttered. It's just a disaster if neglected for too long. Now, I know the list may be really, really long, but do your best to respect the timer to just 5-10 minutes max, okay? So, funny enough, but I was thinking of listing out examples of chores and tasks to maintain in the house, but I think you're pretty good at knowing what they are, right? All right, so step number 2 from your list is you're going to place everything in order of the worst, like the most suckiest ones, the ones that you wish would disappear, to the ones that aren't so bad at all. So try to do your best and put the ones that are the worst for you at the top, because you're going to be choosing your top 3 most suckiest and wish they would disappear tasks. Now remember, there's no wrong answer and there's not a lot of thinking to do here. So just take about 5 minutes max to put your list in order. Now, if you're wondering, why just 3 things? Well, you know this. If we have too many things, it's easy to get overwhelmed and frustrated, right? And this is what this podcast is for. This is why I'm bringing this out to you today, to avoid all of that, to reduce the frustration and overwhelm. So for now, let's just focus on the 3. So now that you have your top 3 that annoy you and frustrate you the most, or if you had a magic wand, it would all just disappear. We're gonna get into the final part to decrease overwhelm and frustration when it comes to maintaining your home. And that's to put them on a system and a structure so that it's almost automatic, where we work smarter and not harder, and also get everyone involved. So the first part of our system that will help reduce overwhelm and frustration is to create boundaries around our schedule, and that is with time blocking. So remember the example about the emails that we're getting left, right, and center, and blocking time off during the day, in the morning, or before the end of the day to tackle them? Well, it's kind of like the same thing, but with our chores and our tasks. So in this case, we'd need to block some time and schedule it so we can just focus on it that one time during the day. Do you know what I mean? So these tasks that we don't want to do so much, that are not our cup of tea per se, the only way to kind of reduce the amount of overwhelm and frustration is that it's not happening every single day, all day. And it's the only thing we think about, or it's the only thing that we keep going to do and try to finish when we're not working, driving around, prepping meals, helping with homework, or tending to the kids. You know what I mean? So the example I'm going to use is laundry. Why? Because if you've heard me before, laundry is a beast. It's never ending. It's always there. It's ready when you are, waiting for you to be washed, to be folded, and to be put away. And it can be overwhelming. So if you can put that in a schedule, or put those things in kind of like a contained way, like a box in your day, it makes it a little bit more easy to manage. First off, time blocking will help to keep everything in one time and one space only, where you just do focus work on that. So whether it's an hour or 2, or even just 15 minutes, whatever it is, it's just that time that's dedicated for that specific task. And I find that the best, because you are tackling that item list without letting it overwhelm you so much, because you're only giving it that time in your day to focus on it. So for instance, at our house, when it comes to laundry, we have a schedule going on where each day it's just one category of laundry. So on, let's say, for instance, on Sundays, the kids and my husband, they do jujitsu in the mornings, and then when they come home, they bring their gis and put them downstairs in the washing machine. Then afterwards, they hang them to dry and then fold them at night so it's ready for the rest of the week. Now, on the other days of the week, I have towels on Mondays, I think, and on Fridays are another set of towels. Or is it Thursday? I don't know. I can't remember everything on the fly right now, but that's why I have a laundry schedule. I'll put a link in today's show notes so you can set one up for yourself. All right, just to go back to what we were talking about with laundry and overwhelm, it was overwhelming. Laundry was frustrating, but now it isn't anymore because I've applied what I'm teaching you today. So let's keep moving, okay? Now, the second part of our system to help reduce overwhelm and frustration when it comes to our tasks at home is to automate things. Now, what do I mean by this? If we set it up so that your machines work for you instead of against you, in a sense where they are working when you don't have to be there to monitor it. In other words, it means your machines are working while you're asleep, doing something else, or you're at work. So for instance, for us, we run the dishwasher overnight. We unload it in the morning, it gets filled the rest of the day, and then before we go to bed at night, we schedule it so that it runs like at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, so that it's ready to be unloaded by one of the kids the next day. So that's what I mean by automating something and working a lot smarter than harder. Now, speaking of the kids unloading the dishwasher the next day, we're at the final point to reducing stress, overwhelm, and frustration when it comes to our tasks at home. And that is point number 3, delegate and or share the task. I know delegating might be something tricky or delicate or very challenging to do, especially at the beginning. Some kids might be very resistant or even protest and not want to do anything. Or maybe it's you who doesn't want to give these tasks away. I don't know. But it will only help them in this whole big picture. Yes, it is helping you right now because it lessens the amount of things on your plate. But it actually helps them in the future, so when they have their own place, they will know what to do. So here's an example of where delegating fits in our house. And surprise, surprise, I'm going to be using laundry because it's never ending. And if it's not taken care of, it's just going to pile up and everybody's going to have to walk around naked, which it's not going to happen. So basically, I start a load in the morning and then I go about my day, whether it's working from home, going to a client's, or going to work at the school and running my errands. Then I come home in the afternoon and one of us, either it's myself or the kids, will do the switch and put whatever that's in the wash into the dryer and maybe start a second load if needed. Then after supper in the evening, we'll either have time to take it out of the dryer and then fold it at night with my husband, or it gets folded the next day or two by myself with the kids, or just the kids alone. So you see where sharing and or delegating the tasks work beautifully here? Everyone can participate so that this task is getting done or gets closer to being finished. That way it alleviates all the stress and frustration and overwhelm from you. And to tie it in with time blocking, it's on a schedule. By the way, speaking of the kids doing the tasks, if you do follow me on Instagram, I occasionally post images and posts of my kids doing their tasks and different chores based on a chore and activity chart that we created, myself and my husband, over the years. This is probably iteration number 6 or 7, but maybe one day I'll show you how we do this. But it's got some pretty sweet deals and incentives to help getting the chores done at home with the least resistance possible. And at the same time, balancing out their leisure time, activities, and studies. All right, so just to wrap all of this up, these are my 3 recommendations to reducing the stress and frustrations we have when trying to maintain our home. From your top 3 most stressful and overwhelming tasks, number 1, time blocking and doing focus work on the tasks that are not quite the ones we enjoy doing, but the more condensed and focused time that you spend doing that, the less overwhelming it is. Then you have making things automatic, like setting up your washing machine overnight, or even setting up your Roomba like we do 3 times a week so I don't have to vacuum. And finally, delegating and sharing the tasks so there's less on your plate and everyone is getting involved. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please let me know your one takeaway that you got by DMing me on Instagram or on Facebook, but I'm mostly on Instagram. So let me know there what your takeaway is from today. And again, as always, if you enjoyed this episode, please leave a positive review on Apple Podcast. All right, my friend, thank you so much for listening today. Have a great rest of the week, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.